Do this on their body. They're sending a message.
And the Outlaws are not afraid to use violence to set an example, even against their own. In January 1995, police found the body of Indiana outlaw Donald Fogg laying face down in the snow near the gang's Gary clubhouse. He had been shot 3 times in the head. The Hells Angels were logical suspects, but Fogg's corpse was actual proof that the Outlaws live by their slogan, God forgives, outlaws don't.
The Outlaws went through the motions for Fogg. They had a funeral, they had the cavalcade, but turns out that they killed him. They eliminated him because they thought he had become a snitch.
Worried that Fogg might reveal details of the Lancaster Speedway murders, outlaw President Taco Bowman personally ordered the hit. At the height of the turf war with the Hells Angels, they couldn't afford anyone spilling their secrets. Little did the Outlaws know that Fogg's murder would add fuel to a growing fire that the feds were stoking. The government's approach to violent crime would strike at the very heart of the Outlaws organization.
You murder people and you go into bars and beat everybody up, no, you're going to get law enforcement's interest.
Chicago, 1995. Hells Angel Jack Castle's corpse was pulled from his shattered car, steam spilling from the 11 bullet wounds that riddled his body. An ongoing range war between the Outlaws and the Hells Angels had gotten out of control. At least 5 bikers were dead, many more injured, and a massive Chicago car bomb had ravaged a city block and put innocents at risk. The reign of terror that the Outlaws waged in their battle over turf had reached a climax and caught unwanted attention.
You detonate arguably the 3rd largest car bomb in the country and you murder people and you go into bars and beat everybody up, no, you're going to get law enforcement's interest.
In November of 1994, 2 weeks after the Chicago blast, the ATF sent a warning to all federal, state, and local authorities. The Outlaws and the Angels were in an escalating and violent war. Molotov cocktails had been thrown onto porches. Fire extinguishers rigged with explosives left on doorsteps.
They're crawling up under guys' cars at night, putting an IED underneath there, and fusing it, getting it ready to go.
This was a group devoted to hideous crime, and they took pride in their actions.
But that was all about to change. The crime spree coincided with a government crackdown on gang violence in America. In 1996, the U.S. Justice Department listed the Outlaws among the 15 most dangerous crime cartels in the country. A key tool in attacking these syndicates, the racketeering statute, known as RICO. RICO was designed to take down criminal enterprises like the mob. As the government saw it, the Outlaws were no exception.
We view them as organized crime, plain and simple. People getting involved in an organization like this is just a vehicle for them to further their criminal careers.
Instead of prosecuting individuals for separate crimes, RICO allowed authorities to establish connections that painted a picture of the organization as a whole and imposed severe sentences for all involved. By the summer of 1995, the Outlaws in the Midwest were feeling the heat. They knew they had a lot of enemies who would revel in their incarceration. At the top of that list, the Hells Angels.
The Outlaws got scared. They were afraid that the Hells Angels were going to testify against them. And because of that, they said, okay, if we keep going like this, we're all going to end up in jail.
Ironically, the government's scrutiny would eventually force a tenuous truce between the Outlaws and the Hells Angels. But the uneasy peace couldn't turn back the clock. At least 5 were dead as a result of the turf war, and a time of reckoning was upon them. It wasn't a rival gang member who would do the Outlaws in. It was a woman. Patricia Wolf, who's now deep in witness protection, was tired of her outlaw husband's womanizing. and she knew a lot. David Wolf had bragged to her about stabbing Hell's henchman Monty Mathias to death with a screwdriver, among other sins committed during the Range War.
It seems as though David Wolf couldn't have sex without talking, either as foreplay or afterplay. He would come home from a killing and tell Patricia the details.
Patricia let the feds bug her phone and put a wiretapped lamp in her living room. Then came an unexpected bonus when Wisconsin State Line chapter president Spike O'Neill, who had ordered the Mathias hit, stopped by.
Spike O'Neill was visiting, and he said, "That's a nice lamp." And Patricia said, "I'll get you one." And so Spike bugged himself.
For several months, the feds recorded outlaws discussing their dirty deeds.
They discussed the finer points of law. If you're going to kneecap someone, will you get a longer sentence if you hit them with a lead pipe or if you put a bullet through their knee? What if you cut off his head and you're caught with the guy's head in your trunk?
They also talked about explosives.
You hear the outlaws sitting there, they're watching TV and they see the Oklahoma City bombing, and they're saying, "We got to get bombs like that."
In June of 1997, 17 outlaws were indicted in Milwaukee. Among the crimes cited, the Chicago car bomb, the murder of Hell's henchman Monty Mathias, the Lancaster Speedway riot that killed 2 people, and the truck bomb that nearly killed henchman Roger Febrance. Prosecutors organized the efforts of 25 law enforcement agencies and presented 30,000 pages of documents, mountains of tapes and evidence, and over 100 witnesses to build a damning case against the Outlaws Motorcycle Club. When the trials were over, 16 had been found guilty. Meanwhile, as their brothers fell around them, many outlaws started looking out for themselves.
Every organization has somebody that can be turned. You make a choice, the patch or prison. And a lot of guys are gonna, choose giving up the patch.
Around the country, outlaws at all levels of the club were feeling the heat. In 1997, International President Harold Taco Bowman was indicted in Florida, charged with conspiracy to commit crimes against the Angels, drug trafficking, and the murder of one of their own, the supposed snitch, Donald Fogg. But before the feds could arrest him, Bowman vanished. For over a year, he sat on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Finally apprehended in 1999, Bowman was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison. New leadership took hold, but the outlaws had taken a hit. For a while, membership in the Midwest dwindled.
Basically, through the efforts of law enforcement and the RICO Act, they're running scared.
During the relative quiet, the outlaws would regroup and reignite, becoming more sophisticated and perhaps more dangerous than ever before. They developed a new strategy.
Don't start a war, don't go shoot someone, don't go bomb someone's clubhouse. Walk in with a big bucket of cash and give it to someone and buy them.
The 1990s turf war waged by the Outlaws Motorcycle Club against the Hells Angels and their supporters left a trail of biker bodies strewn throughout the Midwest. But a government crackdown had forced a peace between the rival motorcycle clubs. In the lull, the Angels were able to establish a presence in the Chicago suburbs without further fight from the Outlaws.
The truce was a direct result of those RICOs. That stopped the bombings, it stopped a lot of the overt violence, stopped right at that particular moment in time. So it did have an effect on these guys to a degree.
In the wake of the prosecutions, the Outlaws changed their approach and their public face.
I think they are getting more into the public relation type arena. They started to see that, we need to turn this around and, get more people on our side.
Outlaws now regularly participate in toy drives and charity events.
They take the biggest, baddest, ugliest looking biker and put him on the raunchiest looking Harley. And then they stuff it with teddy bears. And people look at that and say, "Oh, look at that big biker. He's such a nice guy."
They're putting on a happy face with the kids and wearing the Santa hat, and then they're walking out the back door flipping the police off and being as obscene, showing their true colors, who they really are to us. They see it as a game, it's a joke.
In the past several years, law enforcement says a new generation of outlaws has emerged.
These younger members, they're not dedicated to the lifestyle. It's about money and it's about recognition. All they're seeing is what's in front of them. They've got the patch, they've got instant access to drugs, money, women, and they're looking at it for what perks are involved.
They're also gaining momentum in new places. Since 1998, the Outlaws have grown to nearly 200 chapters around the world, adding members in 16 countries, including Russia, Norway, and Japan.
They're in Australia, they're in throughout Europe, you know, they're in Central and South America, they're in Asia. You know, they're all over the place. The larger they grow, the bigger their empire grows and the bigger their reputation grows.
In 2005, hundreds of outlaws from 8 countries and 16 U.S. states descended on Chicago for the Outlaws' grand 70th anniversary celebration. It was a public display of the club's solidarity and strength. The Outlaws have grown to more than 1,500 members worldwide, and every added chapter means more money for the organization.
Bikers are businessmen, and they treat each chapter like a franchise. So when the Outlaws want to expand, they'll go into an area where there's an existing bike gang, and they'll say, you know, we like you guys. You know, we'd like to give you a business plan. We'll show you how to kill people. We'll show you how to organize your finances.
The Outlaws may also have discovered that dead bodies are bad for business.
They're learning that the best way to do business is to do it peacefully. Don't go bomb someone's clubhouse. Walk in with a big bucket of cash and give it to someone and buy them.
That may make the Outlaws more dangerous than ever.
Bikers have accumulated a lot of wealth, a lot of power. They are, as a form of organized crime, in a position now to seriously threaten national security. They have the wealth to buy judges, cops, politicians.
They pump the cops. You got a police officer that can tell you stuff. They will tell you pretty much anything. Oh, you didn't hear from me, but here's what's going on. Everybody's got a secret. And they would use that to their advantage constantly. They got great intelligence information from police officers.
The truce with the Angels has already ended, and violence is beginning again. In 2006, 5 outlaws were shot near the grounds of the annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally in South Dakota. 2 Hells Angels were arrested for the crime. That same year, a Hells Angel was shot from his bike and killed in Connecticut. No one was arrested, but outlaws were suspected. The Outlaws are also expanding into new criminal ventures, like computer hacking and identity theft. The feds are still fighting back. In 2007, after a 5-year investigation, 16 outlaws were indicted in Detroit. Among the charges, drug distribution and assault with dangerous weapons. Bringing down the outlaws is an uphill battle.
Their ruthlessness and their willingness to expand, their willingness to fight their rivals, and just to be violent is what's allowed them to flourish.
Some worry the chance to stop the outlaws may have passed long ago.
The problem just festered and grew and festered and grew. There's a very small window of opportunity when a gang forms when you can destroy it. And if you don't destroy it at birth, it's like a cancer. It will grow, it will spread, and you will never ever get rid of it. And you will spend generations fighting it as it evolves and becomes more sophisticated and more complex. And in the end, the gang will win out.